You have forwarded questions for consideration. Some people have emailed them to you. For the people who didn't have any questions that were asked for them, we do have set standard questions that they are going to be spoken to randomly. We ask the candidates that they do sit for this part, and you can share a microphone communally with the person beside you. We have 4 mics on the table, so again, we do ask that everyone stay seated. And you have 1 minute. At 45 seconds, you'll get a warning bell, and then at 60 seconds, we do cut you off. So we are going to start with Tariq. As I said, Deborah randomly drew that name.
James.
Okay. So Tariq, the question submitted by email was, once elected, how will you inform yourself of your constituents' opinions on issues?
I will be receptive. I will come to you. If there is a big issue, I will come to you, visit you, and see what is going on. Not just read the papers and read opinions from James or Penticton Western or Penticton Herald. Thank you. Sorry, James, I didn't mean anything bad. You were doing your
Thanks
thing.
for the plug. That was great. Thank you. Okay. All right. So going to the right, Judy Sentes, a question submitted. According to minutes posted on the city's website, in 2014 already, you were absent from 7 council meetings on vacation, January 6th, 13th, 20th, 27th, February 3rd, 6th, and August the 5th, plus committee work in between. If re-elected, will you continue to have as high of absentee rate from important city business?
I will answer that in saying 2014 was an unusual year. I had several family commitments that came forward. If you look at the other 5 years, I never had anything nearly like that, and I don't expect to ever have that again. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Slater. Council recently voted to create 3 new firefighter positions, replacing 2 that were eliminated in the 2014 budget. It's anticipated there could be an internal hiring plus at least 1 retirement in the coming year. Would you support maintaining the top level of fire protection in our community if elected?
That's a really close to home issue. I have a brother-in-law and 2 nephews that are firefighters for the city of Penticton. I think that we need to keep our essential services at the hiring thing that we should keep our essential services. Okay, I'm blank. Anyway, we have 2 more firemen retiring. We have just hired 2 more firemen for the ones that have already retired. We need to keep those positions. We don't need to be laying anybody else off. So what it's just showing me is they have hired to make it look good, but as soon as those other guys retire, we have not heard anything about if they are going to replace those firemen. Thank you.
Thank you. And Campbell Watt, this is a question that was specifically requested for you. Campbell, as president, I guess on leave, of the Downtown Penticton Association, do you agree with the way the revitalization of the 100 and 200 block of Main Street was crammed down everyone's throat through a reverse petition process?
I would not word it as crammed down throat. I believe that people don't agree with the reverse petition, but the plan is solid, and regardless if it was petition or reverse petition, it was welcomed with open arms. There are, in fact, some business owners that didn't necessarily want it, but the majority do want it. And if you look through the entire plan of the revitalization, I think you'll see that it makes sense. A downtown core is really essential to any city's development, and we need to be vibrant, and that revitalization is a key component to that.
Thank you. Pass the mic down. Pass the mic down. Thank you. Steve Boltby, question again was specifically written for you. You have been an outspoken critic against the Okanagan Correctional Facility for various reasons. What option can you suggest that would bring 240 good-paying jobs to this region?
Thank you for that question. 240 jobs. They're spread between Summerland and the border. They will all be union jobs to the correctional facility. There won't be any local people hired for that job. And as far as 240 jobs go, if we look at the numbers, and if you go to one of my letters to the editor, I broke it down. The event center brings in more money in aggregate than the correctional facility does. So almost anything will bring in more money than the correction. Not to mention the change of the fabric of the lifestyle of this town.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
And pass the mics to the right, please. And Patrick, you get a specialized question. Patrick, you are a strong proponent for the cycling community. How do we justify bicycle lanes in Penticton when the ratios of bikes to automobiles is minuscule?
Cyclists have every right on the road, as do car drivers. A lot of us do pay taxes for these roads. Some of the areas, like up in the industrial area, I disagree with where they put some of the bike lanes. I don't think they're necessary. Some of the bike lanes should have been put around Atkinson, closer to the schools, so that it's safer for the children to ride their bikes to schools. Cycling, to me, I've been part of it for a long time. I've raced, and I believe in cycling. I believe it's a way of promoting health and fitness. And yes, there are areas where the bike lanes aren't necessary, but we may have to go back and look at that again and change some of those routes.
Thank you. Paula? Okay, and if candidates can just get in the habit of passing it to the person on your left when you're done, that would be great. But Paula Catani, the question is, would you be in favor of a performing arts center in this community?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, of course I would, because they're working on the Playhouse right now downtown, and that's all local volunteers, as I can tell. I've also talked to some people with criminal records, and they're trying to prove themselves right now because they're not getting a job anywhere else. So they're working through the volunteer system to work through welding and the other trades and create a performing arts downtown. And hopefully they succeed, because everybody needs a second chance. These kids were 18 when they got their records, so thanks.
Thank you. And again, the candidates are unfamiliar with what the question is going to be. Don Dumino, your question is, what is the solution, if any, to the graffiti problem in the downtown alleys of Penticton?
Excellent question. Graffiti is present in all cities, unfortunately. However, what I find is that there are ways of, and I think some of this has been addressed by putting up walls of art, where usually if there is some other art there, the graffiti does not show up on that. They don't like to do that. But there's also ways of preventing graffiti with special paints. So those are things that could be looked at as well.
Thank you. Thank you. That's here. All right. And Ryan Foster, from email, what were your thoughts on the community garden on Ellis Street being told to take a hike by city staff and councilors and replaced with asphalt? And you have 60 seconds.
I thought it was rather absurd. Actually, that's one of the things that motivated me to run for council. I'm not against parking lots, and I know that we need more parking downtown, but I think that we can integrate parking lots with resilient design principles. Edible landscaping and parking lots are not mutually exclusive. If we want more parking lots, why not plant trees in the parking lots? Those trees could provide valuable shade to keep the cars and the people in the cars cool. And those trees could be producing thousands of pounds of nutrient-dense nut mast that could spawn social local enterprise or small business that processes those nuts into nut butters, the prices of which are skyrocketing. You know? Foster Penticton.
Thank you. Okay. Gary Grattan sent by email, and this is a tough one, so here you go. As an active real estate agent, how do you perceive your ability to be an effective counselor given the potential real estate transactions that you would have to excuse yourself from to avoid any conflict of interest perceptions?
Thank you for the question. It's a perfectly legitimate question. I have a good friend sitting in the room here tonight who served, I believe, 2 terms on city council, and I believe that he was one of the best counselors this city has ever seen. I hope to be able to emulate and copy his excellent example. You know, as a realtor, you are essentially an independent businessman and a contractor. Not an easy thing to do. You get up every morning, you're on your own hook, and you either make it or you don't. Long hours, dedication, hard work, full time. You have to maintain an absolutely stellar, excellent reputation, and if you don't have that, you have nothing, and you should go and do something else. I've tried hard over the years, and I do believe that I can be very effective on council, and of course, when appropriate, I simply have to excuse myself. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up question. I'm just going to ask you a follow-up question, Gary. Who is the realtor of 6 years you're referencing?
Well, if he doesn't mind me, with his permission, I can't quite see him right at the moment, but I don't think he'll mind. His name is Gary Denton.
Okay, stand up. And we are so glad to see you back with us, Gary. So please, big hand for Gary. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you who don't know, Gary kind of had a hell of an autumn, so we are so glad that you're back here. Thank you so much. Okay, Brian Henningsen, and here's your question. As someone who has worked on the oil rigs, did you agree with the city's aggressive campaign to, quote, work in the oil patch and live in Penticton that was launched in Fort McMurray about a year and a half ago?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Sure. As someone who has worked on the oil rigs, did you agree with the city's aggressive campaign to, quote, work in the oil patch and live in Penticton that was launched in Fort McMurray about a year and a half ago?
I actually don't work in Fort McMurray. I work somewhere quite a far northwest of there. I'm not super familiar with that, but I'm not a big fan of that. I do work on the oil rigs to get by. My preference would be to actually live full-time in Penticton and work at a livable wage job right here in Penticton, so that I never have to leave. I've been all across Canada. I think this is the best place in Canada, and I'd like to stay here full-time with a livable wage job if I could get one.
Okay, thank you. So Tim Hodgkinson was going to be the next one, so just for fun, I'm going to ask the question and answer it. Tim, who do you feel is the top journalist in the province of British Columbia? And those of you who don't know Tim, Tim is a Brit, and he'd say something equivalent of, well, mate, we have many fine journalists such as Ms. Pfeiffer and Mr. Morehouse and Mr. Kidd, but definitely James Miller. So thank you, Tim. All right, so he's not here, so I made that up. I'm sure that's what everyone would say, but our next speaker is, seeing Tim's not here, Brian Horacy. Brian, you come from a forestry background. Where do you stand on the issue of urban deer and roaming horses in our community?
Well, the quick answer is that deer do need forests. I'll leave it at that, but I'm going to go on from there because we've seen a lot of talk today about economic issues and the green zones in this city, the ALR and the watersheds that surround this town are the basis for the amenities that we all enjoy, and they will be the fundamental basis for the future. And if we can't take care of those, including our watersheds and our forests and our ALR lands, then the future is not going to be as bright as we would like it to be.
Thank you. Keep in mind for the audience, the candidates are limited to 60 seconds, so sometimes timing, sometimes a trick. So thank you, Brian. Lynn Kelsey's question especially for you. You are a strong advocate for the less fortunate in society. Ultimately, do street people not hurt our economy and tourism because, to be frank, Many people, seniors especially, are frightened of them.
I am a strong advocate for the underprivileged in society. I work at the South Okanagan Women in Need Society, and I work with women and children who are fleeing abuse. I see constantly in this city issues where people don't have safe, affordable housing. They're forced to live on the street. If we can provide safe, affordable housing and resources for these people, they aren't going to be out there scaring people off. They're people, and they need to be treated with the same dignity as you and I.
Thank you. Okay, Helena said, okay. Helena Conans, shortly after being elected to council, you basically shrugged off the hockey dorm as a mistake that simply shouldn't have happened. Legal bills to date have cost more than $100,000 with no end in sight. There is $1.1 million in lien. Does the public not deserve to know exactly what happened, why, and whom was responsible?
Thank you. There were a lot of mistakes made before I came on having to do with that property. Some of that has been settled, but a lot of that still is in court, so we're not able to talk to that too much, but I'm hoping that it can be settled, the rest of it can be settled very soon. I think what you saw with that hockey dorm project was a council that was trying to do something risky, because when you're in council, people are always asking you to, why don't you go out and try something different, do something more? And I think this council might have stepped a little too far. But if you want council to make a difference, sometimes they will make mistakes. You should see settlement on that property very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to Helena's left and our audience's right, David Coronets. You are a strong voice for the arts. What do you consider to be a reasonable amount of grant allocation for groups such as the Shafford Center and the Okanagan Symphony Orchestra?
Well, the amounts that are currently there seem to be working, and I don't think they should be taken away or restrictions put in so that they can't get them anymore. Recently, I believe the city wants the Arts Council, for instance, to provide reasons how they fit into the city's vision. Instead of the city having a vision that includes the arts, they want the arts to somehow fit into their vision. And I think it should be the other way around.
Thank you. Brent Madsen, as a downtown business owner, where do you stand on the issue of reducing traffic to 2 lanes in the 200 block of Main Street?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. As a small business owner, I think it's a good idea, because why would you not want the traffic to slow down going past your business anyway? With this 2 lanes comes wider sidewalks, and then the businesses can push their businesses out onto the sidewalk for the summer months. What other city has 3-lane highway going through their downtown? So yes, I speak in favor of 2 lanes. It might confuse people a little bit at first, but that might also slow them down. So I believe it to be a good thing.
Thank you. Andre Martin, as a former president of the Chamber of Commerce, did you agree with economic development and tourism being taken away from the Chamber and having it in the hands of City Hall?
I'll maybe answer that in 2 parts. One is I do believe that the Chamber is better off because of the separation. It let the Chamber go back to focus on what the Chamber should do, and that's advocacy for business. I can also tell you that the financial situation of the Chamber has never been better. We've made some great recoveries there in the last 2 to 3 years, which tells me we were underwriting those other 2 programs. Whether or not those programs should be inside of City Hall, that's another situation, but I firmly believe that the 2 of them need to be in one unit together, tourism and economic development. And I too am in favor of 2 lanes downtown.
Thank you. Doug Maxwell. Doug, you were a candidate in the provincial election for the BC First Party, and one of the planks of your platform was you would donate 25% of your salary back to charity because the MLAs essentially gave themselves a hefty raise. Sir, do you believe city councillors and the mayor are overpaid?
I have no idea. I know they don't get paid anywhere near what Dan gets, and that's what I was proposing at that time. No, I think the councillors and mayor are underpaid, personally. I don't think it should rise. I think it should stay where it is. But I think you do, at this level, you do actually more work than the provincial government. Because we can't hide in Victoria. And so I think it should stay where it is, the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine Nicholas, as an Aboriginal woman, why do you feel that it's important for the city of Penticton to have quality relationships with the Penticton Indian Band?
James Miller. I am Aboriginal, Scottish, and French. Thank you. Since I've moved here to the Okanagan 12 years ago, it was a benefit working with at-risk youth because I speak Francais. So when I worked with the transients, they thought they were pulling the wool over our eyes. So, you listen, they couldn't pull anything over us with that. I also have taken the time to learn the Punjabi language since I've been here. I think that I was raised in Ontario and I was raised multicultural in mainstream, and out of respect, I seen that my role as a community member to take the time to build the relationships. I also do speak the Okanagan language here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Remember, councillors, you do get a 15-second warning bell and then the final bell. So.
Okay, then I'm going to finish that.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that it's been a real honor working in this community. For 12 years that we've been here, I've been invested. And to have a good working relationship with the Penticton Indian Band, we know that we can only build up and we can build to the right.
Thank you.
Miigwech.
Kevin Noonan, as a businessman, are you in favor of subsidizing profitable organizations such as WestJet to offer service here? Should the city be in the business of handouts to major corporations?
I guess all the good questions were taken. It's a two-edged sword. I mean, we want to get businesses into Penticton. We want them participating in our economy. There are certain things that drive it, and everybody knows the airport does. We've been trying to get somebody for a long time. I don't know if it's really as good a deal as we could have hammered out. I knew that they were going to get something. We all knew that, but we wanted them here. What they can bring to this city is incredible. Time will tell whether we got the best deal, the best bang for our buck. I say yes, we do need to spend money to instigate good business in this city. Thanks.
Thank you. Max Picton, as president of Tourism Penticton, did you agree with the city launching legal action and losing against the Penticton Hospitality Association, which will inevitably cost taxpayers at least $100,000 in legal bills?
I don't believe that the city should be launching legal action against any of the citizens or the organizations within. That's a big reason for what you see on all my signs around town, which is United Penticton. We need to find ways to work together with all these associations, get them all moving towards a unified vision. So we've made leaps and bounds with the PHA since this. I prefer not to look back at the things that have been and where can we go positively in the future. We're working with them, we've got a great relationship moving forward, and we're on the right path, so we're going to continue doing that.
Thank you. Vic Powell, as a former military man and what we've just witnessed in Ottawa, what steps need to be taken, if any, to make City Hall, our courthouse, and high schools safer in Penticton?
Well, that's a tough question because
it's up to the RCMP for the security. My priority is public safety. Unfortunately, those two fellas that were killed didn't have a chance. I've seen it happen before. I've been in the terror zones. It's unfortunate that this is the first time it's happened in Canada to two serving soldiers. I still say it's up to the RCMP, it's up to the fire department. The first responders have to build a security zone and respect it by the public. Thank you.
Katie Robinson, in previous campaigns, you have been in support of union groups that work for the city, such as the firefighters and CUPE. If you support these groups, why were you not vocally supportive of 2 additional firefighters until the past several weeks?
I think you should. Hello? I think that's probably best answered by our firefighters. Maybe you should ask one of them, because I've been a firm supporter of the firefighters for over 20 years in this town. I've been very vocal in my support. I supported them when our fire chief said that we could make do with the amount of firefighters we had. I'm on public record at a city council meeting saying so. I've never been in a union myself. I can only surmise that CUPE and the firefighters enjoy my style of leadership because they know I'm fair and honest and that I have integrity and that I'll listen to people. I've had an open door policy ever since I first stepped through the doors of City Hall, and I'll continue to do so in the future.
Thank you. And last but not least, Daryl Sanders, what steps do you feel need to be taken to see that as many economic benefits from the Okanagan Correctional Center, which is near Oliver, can be reaped by Pentictonites?
Good luck with that one.
That's a tough one. I think that they should have sourced most of the construction companies locally instead of out of Vancouver. I know they are having some hiring processes where they've put out asking people to apply for jobs there. It'd be something I'd have to research a little bit. It's kind of one question that I did not expect to get, so I don't have very many answers on it.
Okay, thank you. And that's the end of round 2. We're at 8:04 p.m.